Hey everybody, welcome to day 108 of Spiritual Healthcare. It is good to see you all. It is a beautiful day outside. I don't know where you guys are at, but it is gorgeous here in Edmonton. Today on Spiritual Healthcare, we've got lots to chat about, including what are some of the reasons spirits might haunt a location, as well as what do you do if you're in a situation where you're in an interaction with a spirit and you are spoken to? What do you do? What do you say? What do you do? What's the reaction? As well as fortune tellers and why some people are like super reliant on them. So welcome. Good morning to Dan and Patricia and Kaz. Kaz says that they just had a train derail and catch fire. That's crazy. That is crazy. What in the heck? What is going on? I tell you, we've had some really weird things going on here in Edmonton as well. Like some pretty weird things, both personally and I guess in the world. Of course, they're trying to figure out how to send the kids back to school and all sorts of stuff like that. If they should, if they shouldn't, it's a big debate here in Edmonton right now. And we've had some crazy stuff happen last night as well. I'm really looking forward to sharing this experience that I had last night with you guys, because this is just one of the weirdest things I think that has happened to me, and I've had some pretty weird things happen. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with you guys, because it doesn't quite take the cake, but it's up there. It's pretty weird. So good morning to Sally. Nice to see you. You got to cut your lawn yesterday. Oh, that's nice. That's really good. The city here in Edmonton has backed off cutting grass because we're broke. That's why. Like they're not cutting grass because Edmonton's broke right now. So welcome all of you. I've got allergies this morning, so I'm sorry. I'm like slightly stuffed up. But it's a beautiful day, and as I say, I can't wait to grab onto some of these questions, talking about why spirits haunt and what do you do when people or you have an interaction with a spirit and they talk to you. What do you do? Because it's funny, people's reactions. People all think that they would see something like that and they would freak right out. Like everybody says, like, I don't know what I'd ever do if I saw a ghost because it would scare the hell out of me. But you know what's funny about that is that it's actually usually not the case for most people. Most people do not go to fear right away. If any of you have had this experience, you probably can relate to this. Usually the brain tries to figure it out. Like your brain is so busy trying to make sense of what in the hell you just saw or are seeing, that usually your brain doesn't go to fear. It's very rare. Or at least in my experience, it has been very rare. It's usually trying to rationalize what it's perceiving. Because the brain has a funny way of working. Like what it'll do is it will observe its environment, and then it tries to mirror and match up with that environment on a brainwave level. And I think sometimes when our brains can't quite comprehend what it is that we're looking at, we start to cycle through all of the explanations for it. So, but what do you do if they talk? So I wanted to start out today by sharing this crazy experience that I had last night, because I think this is just wild. So. Both my friend Patricia and myself and another mutual friend of ours, we've been working on the meditation with the hemi-sync features and stuff like that, and just sort of playing around and seeing what effects it will have on us and on our perceptions of the world and all sorts of things like that. And I had something pretty wild happen that I did not expect. So the specific one that I was using the other night when I came to you guys yesterday morning and told you about it. So the one that I had listened to straight through was literally 30 minutes of just sounds and noise and frequency. Like that's all it was. There was no words. There's nothing in it. And it was very specific. Like at the beginning, it almost sounded like the old sci-fi TV shows, and you kind of heard this almost like a computer running, like how you'd expect the old sci-fi computers to run. And then it went into what almost sounded like ocean and waves, but it was done with static. And then you could start to hear the pulsing and the beats and whatnot, and they changed throughout the half hour. And then finally it just kind of ebbed off and ebbed off and ebbed off, and then the recording was over. So anyway, so I had a really fantastic meditation with this, and it was really cool, and whatnot. So last night I was like, this is great. I had some really interesting things happen. I heard with that one, I heard knocking and thunking. That sounded like it was in the room, but it wasn't in the room. There was a bunch of things go on. I felt, as I say, a presence in the space with me. It was really cool. Like, it was really cool, but it was all done, no words, no nothing. So last night I went back to the same recording, because of course it's in your watch history and stuff like that, and went back to the exact same recording. And I kid you not, the entire recording, and if you guys listen to it, you'll probably, it's there right now, is a complete guided meditation with words in it. And I have, like, this, I kid you not, there was the one that I had listened to, which was the same one that I had gone back to, hands down, had 0 words in it. Like, no words, because the meditations with words drive me crazy. They break my focus, so I don't listen to them. So anything with words I bypass. But this was pretty wild. I've not had this, and we've searched for it on the same channel, same everything, and right down to the comments on the video are exactly the same. So it was 100% the same video. But when I listened to it, the words just weren't there, and there were pieces in the recording as well that weren't the same. They weren't the same. So I don't know what in the hell happened. It was very odd. It was very, very odd. I'm fascinated by it, and I'm looking forward to continuing digging into it, because I don't think this is the end of the scenario. I think this is just the start of it, and I'm fascinated. So it was really wild. It was pretty cool. So that's what happened to me last night. It's just 1 minute the recording had different features, and then the next minute it was completely altered. So I don't know, it was really strange. So anyway, great question came in from a team in Dakota, that's cool. And I thought this was a really good question, and it was, why is it that spirits actually haunt? What is it? Why is it that they actually haunt? What the stereotypical ghost, what is it? What are they coming back for? What are they looking for? All of those things. And I thought this was really cool. Really interesting question, because we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I don't think we've delved into it on the level that they're kind of intending with this. And it's funny, because the stereotypical haunting that we see throughout movies and TV shows and stuff like that, where, you've got a ghost that seems to be, or a person that seems to be, so-called stuck or whatever, that, is repeating the same thing over and over, or doomed to repeat the same thing over and over. Like, we look at a famous one, like, Marley from, Christmas Carol, right? Who did all these terrible things in life, and he's doomed to carry around his chains and books and money and stuff like that. So he's warning Scrooge against the perils of greed and whatnot. But the funny thing is that, as we've mentioned in spiritual healthcare before, the pattern of these people getting punished or stuck or something like that really doesn't exist in the world of parapsychology. It's very much a sort of a trope that's been perpetuated by stories and TV shows and all sorts of things, media, culture, socially, and it goes way back. It goes way back to Scandinavia and places like that, where they really did fear the dead returning for a couple of reasons. Number one was the fact they were people were afraid of dead bodies to just begin with. And they had good reason to be afraid of dead bodies, because dead bodies are toxic, right? Like, we carry diseases and, toxic gases and all sorts of stuff. So do spirits actually, come to purposely haunt? We haven't found that to be the case. And in most parapsychological research, the interactions between non-physical and physical are very much about delivering messages, talking and having conversation, building relationships again. I think that's probably one of the number one things with non-physical energy, just to begin with, is the fact that they enjoy and look for that communication with people, and when they can find it, and when they can find it consistently, it's a lot of fun for them. Oh, my nose is running because allergies. Allergies they're just no fun, I'm telling you. And I'm allergic to like plants and fur and basically everything that's organic, except for Galen. So there's that. Yeah, go figure. I know I'm not the only one. So yeah, we don't get the same level of drama, of course, with it. We don't get the same level of storytelling often with it, because people want the sob story. People want the drama of the love lost and the pining for love and all sorts of things like that, because we're inherently we like that, and we like the story behind it. But honestly, most of the time, what we consider a haunting usually doesn't look like what we see in the movies. When we start to actually look at different cases throughout the world when it comes to spirit hauntings and things like that, when we're not talking about negative entities, we're talking about people and interacting with that consciousness, is that consciousness is very much looking forward to interacting with us. It likes that interaction, and it wants to have that connection and communication. So oftentimes we just shut it out. We just stop talking about it. We don't want to believe that it's real. People tune it out, turn it off. They think it's crazy. I must have been going crazy. And we ignore it. And we always seem to be surprised when there is some sort of physical connection or communication or whatever, as if, it's such an abstract concept to us, that when it happens, we don't know what to do. So the hauntings in and of themselves, tend to look very different than what we see on television and the stories that we hear, the old ghost stories and things like that. So the whole idea that they are, stuck and just wandering around and they just don't know how to deal with it is really, it's a misnomer. It doesn't happen that way. And they don't need our help. They really don't. They really don't. I know people struggle with this idea and struggle with this concept that they desperately need our help. Trust me, the absolute, as they call it in quantum physics, knows what it's doing. It's been doing it a lot longer than we've been here. And it knows how to move energy around. It really does. It really does. And once our consciousness, is really let go from that, our brains and our filters and the egoic mind, once it is like returning into that non-physical awareness, a lot of that stuff, it really does dissipate. It tends to disappear completely, and it returns into that space. That article that I posted for you guys yesterday, in regards to the studies from the Monroe Institute and whatnot, actually covers some of this stuff as well. And so you guys can read about that. It's on the Entity Seeker Facebook page. It's pretty cool. It actually covers some of the life after death stuff and the emergence back into non-physical energy. It's pretty cool. So what do you do then if you've run into an encounter with an apparition or a spirit or the Ouija board or whatever techniques you're using, psychomantium or scrying or whatever it is? People are always surprised when they get a reply. I don't know why everybody's so surprised that they get a reply, but they do. And and they're supposed to get a reply. That's the whole point. But people are still always shocked that it works. It's very funny. But what do you do when that happens? And I think one of the most important things when it comes down to non-physical energy and in dealing with it is to, number one, always pay attention to how you're feeling. Because when you're feeling and you've got that momentum going about whatever it is, the question you've got, or the intention you've set, or the the wish to speak to some specific person. How you're feeling in the moment is really a huge part of it. So I would definitely say is to be able to recognize what intentional space that you're coming from. Are you feeling upset? Are you feeling fear? Are you feeling, because if you're feeling any of those negative emotions on that end of the emotional stick, you don't want to be involved in talking to non-physical. You want to shut that down, because you're always attracting from that standpoint and what you're looking for, and what you are. You're going to get back what it is you are. So you don't want to be doing that. But when you're finding yourself that you're in curiosity, you're in excitement, or you're fascinated, or you've got that passion for it, and you start to have these interactions, I think usually they are so willing, and this is what I have found, they are so willing to meet you where you are. So no matter where your intellect is sitting on it, where your opinions are sitting on it, they will meet you where you are. And I've always found that to be so comforting and so wonderful, because you're not ever reaching for a bar of, a certain bar of intelligence or intellect or anything like that. In fact, they operate on a completely different language. They want to have the deeper conversations. They want to have the connected conversations. They want to have that level of interaction with you, and they really don't care about asking what color your friend's underwear is. It's just not what they care about. They want to be able to have this conversation with you that is connected, that is in discussion about life, the universe, and everything. They want you to ask the big questions. And it's just absolutely wonderful. It's a really interesting connection and conversation to have. And if it's a loved one, not to be afraid to talk to them like you would have talked to them in life. I think so many people forget that, when you're dealing with this incredible consciousness that's present, we forget that it's this is the person that we spent all this time with, but now they're just on a grander scale. They're more aware of us than they were when they were physical. They are more connected with us. They see us clearly rather than through, history and filters and all of those things. And we tend to forget that. We kind of think that they're still stuck in that egoic mind, and that's just not true. So the interactions with that person, interestingly enough, tend to get better. They tend to get better, which is one of the reasons why healing up our relationships with people, either after they pass away, hopefully before they pass away, you can heal this shit up with people, because, if we're bringing that hurt and that pain into that new interaction, we're going to miss the broader part of who they are. We just will. And we have to remember that even when we're dealing with toxic people in our space now, how they are once when they make that transition it's gonna be different. It's gonna change. It starts to look different. So I think it's something to keep in mind when you're having these interactions. Especially if you've got somebody I've had a number of people come to me saying that they want to talk to a relative or something like that has been toxic to them in the past, and, heal up their stuff and, say what they wish they could have said. And what's funny about this is that usually the people who are there, we're hanging on to that argument or the slights that they dealt us or whatever, and they've moved on from that. They've let that go. And if we can let that go as well, we can line up into a brand new relationship with them. So the interaction doesn't have to be as toxic and as crazy, because some people are just crazy, as it was when they were still alive. That can be let go, and a new relationship can get established. So I had a friend recently here who also stars with me on Haunted Hospitals, Chris Brewer, who just lost his mom the other day. And we were having a conversation about this, and how, when we realize that relationship doesn't actually end, it just ends up being reestablished in a new way, it really does change our perspective about how we think about things like death. But that being said, we also have to remember, once that person is in non-physical, that's it. Like, they are in non-physical, and you have to be able to accept that new relationship. So if there's stuff that you have to heal up before that person makes that transition, do it. Like, you've got to be able to do it, because it is a completely different way of being, and they will not, once they have moved over, once they have made that death transition, they will not meet you in your pain anymore. They will not. They will not meet you in your pain. You have to get to that pure positive energy space before you will get that interaction with them. So you got to let that shit go anyway. Sally's asking, is it weird that I'm intrigued by the paranormal but don't want to talk to anyone? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's weird at all. When you want the interaction, or when you want that to come up, then it will. Sometimes the interactions too, it's not necessarily words or speaking either. So here, this is the great part about, this is what I love about non-physical, is the fact that it does speak another language. It really does. Even the words are a very, very human construct. It's a very, it's a people thing. That we got to talk to them. We got to we got to talk about stuff. It's a very people thing, and they don't operate that way primarily. They're willing to do it, and they have fun doing it, and it's great. It seems to be a wonderful experience for them. But their primary mode of interaction really isn't words. It's it's everything from emotion to sensations, to little bits and pieces of events, and all sorts of things. There is they interact on a myriad of levels all day, every day. So the communication is constantly happening. But words tend to be really optional. And Dan's saying, yeah, perhaps you just aren't ready yet. And that's part of it too. You have to, eventually you just end up getting to the point where you find that space, you find that, you find that peace, or that, that interest in moving forward with some sort of a maybe more of a verbal connection, or direct, speaking connection. But yeah, the consciousness is there all the time, and we're getting messages and hearing people chatting and all sorts, it's really cool. You might overhear a conversation, or you might overhear words that were meant for you, or there's a billion different ways that we hear from non-physical all the time. So it doesn't just come in words. So I found a really great passage that I wanted to share with you guys about non-physical stuff, paranormal stuff. And I wanted to read you guys this because I thought this was so cool, and it's about getting clear. So when we've talked before about the idea of being clear in our intentions, being clear in our connection and communication with non-physical is just important as setting intentions in our physical life as well. And there's this really great bit in Faith in the Valley about that, and I wanted to share this with you guys, so check this out. When there's ongoing confusion or chaos in your life, you can be pretty sure one of three things is going on. 1, you are not clear. 2, you don't think or believe that you are clear. Or 3, you have not made it clear to others that you are clear. There's a very simple solution to the problem. Number 1, get clear about what you want, what you're doing, and why you are doing it. Number 2, trust that you are clear once you get clear, even if everyone thinks you're crazy. And number 3, let people know that you are clear and that you are prepared to move ahead with or without them. If you can do this, one of 3 things will happen. You will get clearer than you are. You will get clear about what you were not clear about. And number 3, people around you will get as clear as you are, or they will take the confusion elsewhere. And I think that is so, it's so pertinent. It's so pertinent to this. I love it. I love it. Because getting clear, it really is the key. It really is the key. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. because I love that question. I love that question. And we're not going to be able to get to the fortune teller one either. But that's okay, because it actually relates to tomorrow. So that's all right. That's okay. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So that being said, you guys, we've got to do some affirmations. And Sally is saying her dad didn't come to her in a dream, but she didn't seek him out unless I subconsciously did. Yeah, like, you know, as I say, they're always looking for that connection, but it won't be past what you're ready for. Their awareness is so deep. It's so deep. And, you know, anybody, whether they're non-physical or physical, that speaks that non-physical language will hear it. It's interesting to watch my snake Galen, because he is acutely aware when people are being friendly to him and kind to him, but are afraid of him. And to watch him is very interesting, because where with somebody who is not, doesn't have a fear of snakes, he will come to them and, you know, greet them and say hello, and, you know, and he'll sit in their lap and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And with people that he knows are they're being friendly, but they're afraid of him, he will stay in my lap and observe, and he'll just watch them. And he's very respectful. He'll just sit back, and, you know, he's not overtly showing fear back. He's not mirroring it. But he stays in that kind of, that sort of Zen spot and just holds space for them. It's very, very interesting, but he doesn't get sucked into the crazy, but he knows where the limits are. And I mean, he's, you know, it's not like anyone's telling him. No one's telling him. It's really cool. Non-physical is kind of like that too. Once you speak that language, you're speaking on a different level. So everybody, take a breath. I am a channel of peace and well-being, and my need for peace is abundantly met. I unconditionally accept, love, and appreciate myself for who I am. I recognize and am grateful for the abundance that is constantly flowing into my life, which I can choose to allow or not. I feel with every breath a sense of peace and love. I help others by maintaining and tending to my connection with Source as much as possible. This well-being is accessible to me, even in a sea of uncertainty. And at this moment, all is well. I'm able to liberate myself from my past and live with peace and serenity. I can see and appreciate all the beauty and abundance of the life around me. I'm able to embrace love while letting go of fear. And I find peace with the soothing silence of my inner being. Everybody take a breath. Thank you guys so much for this morning. Tomorrow we're going to talk about getting clear and why so many people rely on stuff like fortune tellers and psychics and stuff like that. Because there's a lot to talk about around this subject. A lot of people become very addicted to fortune tellers and tarot cards and all sorts of things like that. It's going to be very interesting. Thank you guys so much for this, and I will see you all tomorrow morning on Spiritual Healthcare. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take this in. I gotta go figure out why in the hell the recordings did what they did last night and words disappeared and reappeared, and I don't know. So anyway, I gotta go figure that out, and I will keep you all posted. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.